Welcome to Just Men, a life-changing program that resonates hope as well as encouragement. The program that gives you information and inspiration for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jeff Tate, and thank you for joining Just Men. On today's program, we have a very special guest. This is his first time being on Just Men. Please welcome Terry Key. Brother Key, welcome to Just Men.
My pleasure.
Man, I tell you, it's an honor. Let me say on the onset, you add value to Just Men, and we're just grateful and honored for you to be on our program. And before we begin to start turning the pages of the book on your life, man, just share a little bit about your upbringing and who is Terry Key.
Well, you know what I'm saying. First of all, man, I'm honored for you to have me on this show. And man, I'm just a young man that's from the neighborhood that have went through a lot of things and found a way to change it around. So you know what I'm saying. I'm just a person that just glad that I changed my life around. You know what I'm saying, and trying to make my life better.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's who Terry Key is.
Man, that's good. Well, you know, you laying the foundation, changed your life around. I know it took a lot of things to happen and change. So let's start from the beginning in terms of just, you know, your story. What are the things that have impacted you over the years, and then what is pulling you now to a higher level or higher ground in terms of just life and pouring and encouraging others as they struggle and go through life?
Oh man, I grew up on the east side part of Nashville, Tennessee. You know, off of Dixon Road, into some apartments called Delaware Villa. It was back in the days they really let the single mothers, come in, a new development, and to live out there they couldn't have male figures to live with them. So, you know, when I was little, all I remember was me growing up around a lot of kids, but we really didn't have no daddies out there. It really wasn't no daddies staying with the mothers. And the only thing we could do was create our own family, come together, start playing together when we coming outside. But back in the days, you know, it was around about the 80s and the 90s. And we found ourselves hanging with the older kids was in the neighborhood. And back then, it wasn't really no good influences in the neighborhood, you know, like no positive influences. So what we had to do was come outside, survive, and we learned what they learned. And what they learned, what we had to learn from them, it wasn't good at all, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? So we had to we didn't understand then the magnitude of what we was doing. And we almost got caught up in the streets, man. I'm a product from the streets that found my way out of it. And growing up in the neighborhood, all we could look up to was killers and murderers and drug dealers. We didn't have no positive influences in this neighborhood, but you know, it took some time. I went through almost doing a lot of time in jail, and I decided one day that I wanted to change my life around. So that's where I'm at right now.
Wow, change.
Yeah.
I talk about change. What does that mean? You know, many times people are afraid and fearful of change because they just don't know what to expect, and they don't know how they would be accepted when it comes to change. Because many times people want to hold you in a box to your past and not accept the newness of the change in your life. Talk a bit about that transition and how difficult that was, and then if it's difficult at all, to sustain the change.
About change.
Yes.
About what made me want to change.
Yeah, there you go, my man.
Just by just living and learning. When you a kid, you know, you got peer pressure, you know, you got influences that we didn't know nothing about, and it almost got us in trouble. But you know, it took me to bump my head, to figure out life and knowing about the truth about what these young men was trying to teach us. You know what I'm saying? So we have these older cats try to recruit us, but then when it boiled down to it, and when these police start locking these men up, I found out, man, that the gang wasn't real. You know what I'm saying? And it was all a big, I don't know what it was, man, but it wasn't real to me. I thought it was, I wanted to make some money, but I thought, after me just kind of growing up, learning a lot, I found out that all of this was a lie. You know what I'm saying? I almost got myself put in a situation where I had to do a lot of time. And by the grace of God, I didn't. I got a second chance at life. And I started changing right there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah.
here today to kind of just talk about my life.
Yeah. So in that change, what are you doing? I mean, what is it that you're doing now to sort of give back so that others don't fall into that same trap of believing that lie or believing what they call a facade is just an illusion? What are you doing from that standpoint?
It was one or two things. I was going to be dead or locked up. And I decided that one day, out of the blue, that I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit, man. I got tired. Even though I was making a lot of money, I ended up, man, just got to the point where I didn't have to move no more to make money. I didn't have to just, you know what I'm saying? I was just, my phone would ring, I could make money. But through that life, man, I knew it wasn't right. I knew I wasn't living right. You know what I'm saying? I started waking up. I started seeing the truth about the game. So, you know what I'm saying? So I just started changing. I stopped everything cold turkey. I got rid of a lot of stuff. And I decided I quit. I quit, man. I couldn't believe it. But it wasn't about the money no more. All that money that I was making, man, it wasn't good money. It wasn't good to me. It was destroying a lot of people. I started waking up, and I said, man, I quit. I'm going to wake up, decide what I'm going to do with my life. Now, all I learned all my life is to survive, hustle on the streets. But when I decided that I wanted to change my life around, that's when it hit hard. Oh, what I'm going to do? I haven't learned how to fill out applications. I haven't learned how to really work. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just started praying. Started praying to God, like, God, show me the way. Please help me out. I'm going through some rough times. I had to hit rock bottom for me to wake up. You know, even though I lost, I quit the game, that means I left my house. I left everything. Found me one lady to stay with. I've been with her for 20 years now. And we decided that we were going to start from the bottom. So we ended up leaving one apartment complex, and we moved to Joe Johnson out north. And I wanted to start my whole life around, my whole life, a new beginning. Yeah, it was rough because, I had to figure out real life now about working, about filling out these applications, about networking, getting along with people, all of that, man. It was like, man, it was real rough for me. But I ended up going to a business school. And at that business school, the young lady, the teacher told me, she said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to start a business, you have a gift. I didn't really know what that gift was. I said, do I got a gift or something? If you could, so she was kind of just telling me, if you could sell drugs on these streets, you can channel that around and you can do something positive with your skills you got. I was like, okay, let's see, that is true.
Right.
If I can measure and sell this and, make my sales and get customers and all of this old stuff. How can I change this around to make it out of a positive situation? So what I did was I ended up finding something that I love to do, and it was bicycles. A young man that I knew from California, he turned me on to a beach cruiser, something that I ain't ever seen in Nashville. It was a beach cruiser, man, fixed up, all chrome, you know what I'm saying, got the bells and whistles to it. And I was like, man, this bike is off the chain. And when I was little, I really didn't even get a bike. But this bicycle that I purchased, it got me out of the neighborhood. So when I was younger, so when I was going through the class, that bike really just helped me. People didn't really realize that bikes really helped me change my life around because it got me out of the neighborhood. It got me to see more. It got me to. I was like I was free. People was blowing at me and giving me attention. So when I got to the business school, that's how I won. I was in a business school with about like 5 or 7 people. Um, they wanted to sell turnip greens. They wanted to open up a store. But I brought a lowrider bicycle into this business class. I didn't know it was going to win or what. I said, man, this is what I love. So I brought a customized lowrider to a business class, and I turned around and I beat everybody out. So that's what they gave me the inspiration, the motivation that opened up, you know, some doors for me to say, man, that's the only thing I found a passion that I had, and it was through bikes. And I won. I ended up getting $6,000. I opened up a lowrider bicycle shop on Dickinson Road,
Wow.
and I learned more about business. So you know what I'm saying. So that's what kind of got me going into doing something positive with my life. Is to open up a business, and I use something that I love to do 20 years ago, and it helped me out. I kind of failed off of the mistakes I made, but I learned. So I just never did give up. I had a dream, I fought for it, and I never gave up.
Wow, that's beautiful. Talk to me about the changes that you've helped others make in their lives when you were working in the community.
Oh man, if you pop up like 20 years, after I had the lowrider bicycle shop, and I knew bikes wasn't big in Nashville 20 years ago, but I always had that dream like one day these bikes are gonna be big. I kept dreaming, I kept thinking, I kept planning. I said, man, one day these bikes gonna be big in Nashville, and I ended up working at Dillard's warehouse on Brick Church Pike. Me and my wife. We ended up getting a house. We ended up having a pool in the back. Back in 2010, my kids was like still little. I had 3 kids, and we had a pool in the back. I was teaching my kids how to swim, and we was just living a good life. But back then we had a flood. The May 10 flood hit us. We lost everything. It put us back to square one again. You know what I'm saying? So we had to end up, we was homeless for like a year. And then we didn't know what was gonna do, what was gonna live or whatever like that. So we got placed in the Edge Hill community. So that's when the magic started right there. You know what I'm saying? I told the manager, I said, well, if you move us out here, you don't know who you're gonna move into this neighborhood. Because I already had a plan that I was gonna make a difference. You know what I'm saying? I always taught my kids, as they was growing up, no matter what we go through, we always gonna help other people. And I brought them up from scratch, from giving back. no matter what we was going through. We're gonna always help somebody that was in need. So when we got up in Edge Hill, we ended up, we got blessed to get a apartment in Edge Hill. And, it was still rough, but we ended up kind of walking around the neighborhood. And, this is a out south neighborhood, so I didn't really know anybody and nothing like that. So we was kind of like walking around the neighborhood, trying to get to know leaders. And the first places I went was to churches. I I wanted to meet all the preachers. I wanted to meet the community leaders to say, my name is Terry Key. I want to get involved. You know what I'm saying? I got a whole family. We want to get involved. We want to do something good to help out this neighborhood because it was only two things that I knew that I could do in this neighborhood. That was to go back off into what I used to do when I was younger, or I can come out here and I can make a change into somebody's life out here in this neighborhood. I can make a difference. I already knew in my head I was gonna make a difference. So I started knocking on all the churches' doors. This is who we are. We want to be involved. We want to get involved in something. A lot of churches turned us down. Like, we don't think you're gonna really just do this and stick with it or whatever. So we walked like a block away from a rough neighborhood. We walked a block away. I ended up meeting a young man named Austin. He was sitting on a church porch reading a book. I asked Austin, I said, I introduced myself to Austin with my family, and I said, man, we want to get involved. He said, what would you like to do? I said, well, we want to cook and we want to just fix bikes for kids. He said, well, you can use our church. It was the Edge Hill United Methodist Church. And they opened the doors for us. They said, do whatever you would like to do. You want to get involved? We want people to get involved in this neighborhood. I said, ooh. I said, this is the people who I like to meet. So what we did was we got involved. We started cooking for the people in the neighborhood. We started bringing kids from the neighborhood with broken bikes. I started seeing the issues with kids in this neighborhood. I said, this neighborhood need help. They need a leader. They need somebody to help these kids, man. I see kids. It brought me back to the old memories that I grew up in out east in Court and in these rough neighborhoods. And I said, man, it's still the same way. These kids need some help.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What's going on? Why these kids running outside? It's freezing cold and they ain't got no shoes, they got shorts on and it's snow outside. We need to help these kids. So I said, then what I'm gonna do? It's one or two things. So what we did was we got the kids to come from the neighborhood with the bicycles. And people didn't really understand how much I love bikes. Remember, I went to the business class and I started bike. So people started, they didn't understand that I love these bikes. So I started bringing the kids down. I said, watch what I do. I started fixing these kids' bicycles. I told my wife, I said, baby, you can cook, cause we were selling our food to survive. Well, we had a little business called Dropping Like It's Hot Wings, so we selling hot wings and stuff like that. But they would start doing good. But my passion was to help these bikes and help these kids. So I told my wife, you go on and cook. I'm gonna go outside in the yard and I'm gonna help these kids fix on these bikes. And once these kids, I would tell all the kids, come from the neighborhood with your broken bikes, and we're gonna fix them for you. So when we started fixing on these bikes, we would walk back to the neighborhood. Matter of fact, hold on. When we started fixing on these bikes, the kids would love it, and they would walk their bike down. We would fix it, and they would ride their bike up to the neighborhood, smiling, having fun, and everything. I said, man, this is a blessing.
Yeah.
Because we at a church, we helping these kids out, we getting involved. This is something in my heart that I wanted to do. And when we started fixing the bikes, we would walk up to the back to the house. The kids didn't know we was living in the neighborhood. They was just like they knew us from the church. So they started seeing us kind of walk to the house. And they figured out that I lived right there when they kept seeing me, and they kept seeing me, and then all of a sudden, I get knocks on my door. Knock, knock, knock. All the time. Knock, 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 knock. Mr. Terry, can you fix my bike? Can you fix my bike? By the time I fixed about 50 bikes, I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start the Edge Hill Bike Club. I'm gonna get these kids some shirts. We're gonna fix on these bikes. We're gonna take bike rides, and I'm gonna keep up with these kids. I'm gonna motivate these kids. I'm gonna spend time with these kids because I knew when I was young, I didn't have nobody to spend time with me. I didn't have no father figure or nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it was rough for me. So all I did was I did stuff for kids that I wish it could have been done for me. Yeah. And then the only thing that I wanted to do was I always wanted to make my kids out of leaders. So I knew that my kids was gonna grow up in this new neighborhood, this rougher neighborhood. So how can I be a part of them growing up? So what I did was I went outside and started playing with them, fixing on bikes with them, taking bike rides with them. And then what I did was I taught my kids how to fix on bikes first. So what my kids did was go outside and start showing their friends how to fix on bikes. Wow. So it started trickling. So once these kids started learning how to fix on bikes, I used to set some tools out there on the porch and just crack my window and just look out there to see if these kids gonna grab them tools and fix their own flats or fix their own brakes, just to see if it worked what I taught them. Mm-hmm. It started working. Wow. I said, man, this is beautiful. These kids are starting to smile, play with each other, run around. They putting down their BB guns, man, and picking up some tools. Mm. I'm looking like, man, this is a blessing. I said, well, if this is working, what else we gonna do? So we just started taking bike rides and start connecting the dots. I ended up starting me a nonprofit, and I didn't really understand about nonprofits. I was just doing this out of my heart. But a lot of people said, well, Terry, you need to go and get a nonprofit, you know, if you want to get funded and stuff like that. So I went through that.
Yeah, wow, that's beautiful. I know that part of the transformation in people's lives, you talked about the church being available and finding leaders. And many times it's hard to find good leaders in today's world, it seems like, especially those that are good in terms of character and integrity. What would you say is the challenge in what you do as far as connecting with our kids? Because I'm telling you, when I'm talking with others, they say, man, we just can't connect with them. You know, they consider them almost as a lost generation, but yet you've been able to connect. Oh, so yeah. what's the formula, right, that you're doing that others were not doing, and what they can do more of in order to engage our young people and develop their minds and develop their hearts, to create a shift in their hope, man, because a lot of them have lost a sense, or have a sense of hopelessness, and they like, well, I don't care if I don't live past tomorrow, you know, because of just the pressure of life and the hopelessness of life. Yet you're giving them joy, you're giving them things, man, to give them something to look forward to. What is it that you're doing, and what can others do more of to connect?
Spend time with them. Spend time with them. Listen, learn, and connect with them. You know, if you spend time with them, you'll find out what they're going through. They'll talk to you, boy. They need that. It's a lot of leaders that I've met. I don't want to say nothing bad about them, but how can we see change if we just gonna hold an event for one day out of a year? What are we gonna do? You know, how's that gonna affect these kids? How are we gonna see the results of these kids if we just gonna spend a day with them? We're gonna give all these kids, we're gonna have one event out of a neighborhood a year. We're gonna throw hope at them. We're gonna tell them, we're gonna do all of this, but you gone. The next day you gone. So I don't really just, I just say spend time with them, show them that you love them, and show them that you care. And also encourage them to do good in school and stuff like that. And catch them while they're young. Because if you catch them while they're young, you can mold them into something amazing.
Wow.
And I had a chance to send 4 kids to college through this program, and I get to see a whole nother world through their eyes, because I never saw nothing when I was younger. And now I get to live they dream. And they send me pictures, and I say, keep dreaming, man, and never give up. And the sky's the limit. And don't let nobody just take that from you, man. Just keep on going.
Wow, keep going. You spoke some powerful words in our lives, and I'm always thinking about Jesus talks about the parable of the sower, that those seeds on different grounds, and some of the seeds fell on the wayside, and some fell on stony ground. Some even fell among the thorns, and others fell on good ground. He described the seed that fell on the wayside as though that never get a chance to take root because they're distracted by the things of the world. Then he talks about the stony ground, that those who get excited about one moment, but they don't have the endurance to persevere. And then he talks about the thorns, the seed that falls in the thorns, that people come in and steal your joy and choke out, the seed that has been planted. But then he talks about another ground that calls a good ground, where it comes forth 30, 60, and 100-fold return. And you've described that ground when you brought hope into our young people's lives. God placed a vision and a purpose inside of you that only He knew. Only He knew. And nothing could destroy that purpose and that seed and that vision, man. And when you tapped into it, brother, the word says the kingdom of God doesn't come by observation, because it's inside of you. You are His kingdom, brother. You are His kingdom. And you have blessed us, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep empowering. Keep encouraging, man. Because the Father is so pleased with you, brother. He's pleased with you, man. And He's saying, well done. Well done. Man, awesome. Stay focused. Wow, brother. You blessed me, brother.
Man.
You blessed me.
Yeah.
You blessed me.
Thank you. You blessed me.
Yeah.
I just needed one drink of water or something. Can I get a drink of water real quick, Terry?
Yeah, put a pause. He'll pause that. Yeah, 'cause he's actually recording. You stopping in the middle of recording, man.
Come on, man, with my water, Terry. Man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was driving. All right. Then answer that question again.
Yeah, I don't even know what I asked you now, man. You broke the flow, man. You know, took a water break.
Hey, man, this, you know what I'm saying? I want this show to be exciting, man, and a learning experience, man. I'm so glad. I'm really excited. So I'm really just about like
you taking your own takes. It's like,
that's what I do, man.